Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're looking at something I think is on everybody's mind these days, which is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And specifically how it's playing out in education in K-12 schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've all seen the headlines. AI is kind of everywhere these days. But when it comes to, our kids, I think things get a little more complicated. Right?
Absolutely. It does raise the stakes quite a bit when you're thinking about how it could be implemented in a classroom.
Exactly. And so that's where this document from the Georgia Department of Education comes in. It's called Leveraging AI in the K-12.
Well, one of the most interesting things to me was the distinction they made between what they call support uses and high-stakes uses of AI. Mm-hmm. And this is where things get pretty interesting. The document actually cautions against using AI for things like writing IEP goals for students with disabilities.
Interesting. Why is that? On the surface, it seems like that's where AI could really help streamline the process, make things more efficient.
Well, I think this is a really good example of the nuanced thinking that this document encourages.
Okay.
So imagine if you had an AI system and you're trying to get it to generate IEP goals, and let's say the student had autism, right? You could end up with these really generic and impersonal goals that don't really account for that child's individual needs.
Right.
The document's authors are making a point that human element, that understanding of the individual student, that's something that, at least at this point, AI can't replicate.
So it's less about AI being, good or bad, and more about making sure that it's being used appropriately.
Absolutely.
Responsibly.
Yeah, it all comes down to that.
In a way that really benefits the students.
Right. And the document gives some really good examples of what that appropriate use might look like.
Okay, like what?
So things like grading multiple choice exams.
Right.
Or modifying the reading level of a text so that it meets a student's individual needs.
Oh, interesting.
Those are tasks that AI could be really helpful with, freeing up teachers to focus on the more nuanced aspects of teaching.
So it's really more about giving teachers like a superpowered assistant.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Not about replacing them altogether.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's not just teachers. The document also emphasizes involving parents and students and the whole school community in these decisions about how AI is used.
And I mean, that makes a lot of sense because those are the people who are going to be most impacted by those changes.
Exactly. And one of the things that really resonated with me when I was reading this document was their focus on data privacy.
Okay.
You've got COPPA, FERPA, all these laws that are designed to protect student data.
Right.
And the document takes those very seriously.
So it sounds like they're not messing around.
No.
When it comes to keeping kids' information safe.
One of the things that really jumped out at me was the line that said, never input sensitive student information into AI systems.
Wow, that's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, they're not mincing words.
But what about things like, using data to track student progress or tailor lessons, to individual needs? Is there a way to do that without compromising privacy?
Well, that's kind of the million-dollar question.
Right.
And they do address it in the document.
Okay.
They talk about using anonymized or aggregated data.
Okay.
Which essentially means stripping away any information that could identify an individual student.
Got it.
But still allows schools to use that data to improve learning.
So it's a delicate balance.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like they're really trying to find ways to utilize the potential of AI while still making sure that student privacy is a top priority.
And that's just really scratching the surface of this document. There's so much more that they address in here.
Right.
And it really gets you thinking about the future of education in a world where AI is becoming more and more prevalent.
And it sounds like Georgia's really kind of leading the charge here. They're one of the first states to really put together such a comprehensive set of guidelines for how to think about this.
Yeah, I think it's really significant what they've done.
Yeah.
And it's not just a roadmap for Georgia. It's really a blueprint for how we can all start thinking about AI in education in a responsible and ethical way.
Absolutely. And I think that's a conversation that's only going to become more important as this technology continues to evolve.
I agree.
And become more sophisticated and integrated into our lives.
Yeah, it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
Well, speaking of conversations,
we've
talked about the big picture stuff, the ethics, the data privacy, but I'm curious how all of this actually translates to the classroom experience.
Right.
What's the day-to-day reality going to look like for teachers and students who are actually using AI?
Well, this is where the document gets really practical.
Okay.
It really emphasizes the need for clear guidelines on when and how students can actually use these AI tools in the classroom.
Okay.
And one thing I thought was interesting was that they suggest involving students in those discussions.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Well, because if you're the one who's going to be using these tools, you should have a say in how they're implemented.
Right. It gives them a sense of ownership over the technology.
It's about avoiding that Wild West scenario where students are just using AI for everything.
Right. Without even thinking about it.
Without any real guidance.
And it's important to remember that AI should be a tool.
Absolutely.
To enhance learning. Not a shortcut or a crutch.
Not a way to just get out of doing the work.
Right, exactly.
And the document provides some specific examples of how that could work in practice.
Okay, I'd love to hear some of those.
So one example they give is defining specific assignments where AI tools would be appropriate. So for example, let's say you're doing a research project.
Okay.
AI could be really helpful in gathering and synthesizing information.
So the AI could maybe help you find sources.
Exactly.
Summarize some key findings.
Right.
But then it would still be up to you, the student, to analyze that information, form your own conclusions, write the actual paper.
Exactly. It's about striking a balance between leveraging the power of AI and still developing those critical thinking skills.
So it's almost like having a really smart research assistant.
That's a great way to think about it.
But one that pushes you to do your own thinking too.
Right. It's there to support you.
Right.
Not to do the work for you.
And they talked about other things too, like using AI for personalized learning or providing feedback to students.
Yeah, they cover a lot of ground.
Did they talk about anything like, when it comes to personalized learning, a lot of people worry about, students being tracked or labeled, kind of put in a box based on what the AI thinks they need?
They do address that.
Okay, good.
And I was really impressed by how they handled it.
Yeah.
They acknowledged the potential risks there.
Right.
But they also emphasized the importance of human oversight.
Oh.
So the idea is that AI should be used to empower teachers to help them understand their students' needs better.
Right. Not to dictate, this is what the student needs because that's what the AI said.
Exactly. It's about informing decisions.
Okay.
Not dictating them.
And I think that's a really important distinction.
Yeah. Human judgment still needs to be at the forefront.
And it sounds like they really want teachers to be active participants in this process.
Absolutely.
Not just passive implementers of whatever technology comes along.
It's about teachers being in control and making informed decisions about how AI is used in their classrooms.
And that really speaks to the need for, professional development for teachers.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of this.
So it's not just, here's a cool new AI tool, go use it in your classroom. It's making sure that teachers are comfortable with it.
Right.
That they know how to use it effectively.
They need training and support.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the technical aspects of using AI. It's also about the ethical considerations.
Okay.
Understanding the potential biases of AI.
Right.
And the importance of maintaining that human connection in the learning process.
Right, because I think that's one thing we have to remember, even with all this amazing technology, is that the human element, the empathy, the intuition,
that's irreplaceable.
That a good teacher brings to the classroom, that's still essential.
Absolutely. And it's about finding a way for human intelligence and artificial intelligence to work together.
Yeah, to complement each other.
To enhance each other.
So what are some other examples from this document of ways that AI might be used in the classroom? We've talked about it as a research assistant. We've talked about it for personalized learning. What else is out there?
Well, one idea that really caught my attention was the concept of a red light system.
Okay, a red light system. Tell me more about that.
So imagine a visual cue in the classroom, like a literal red light. That's on Zine when students are allowed to use AI for a particular task.
Okay.
Maybe it's for brainstorming or gathering information.
Okay.
But when it's time to write an essay,
the
red light goes off, signaling that they need to rely on their own knowledge and skills.
I like that. It creates clear boundaries.
Exactly.
So students know, okay, for this part I can use AI for help, but for this part I need to do it on my own.
It's about being strategic.
Right.
And it helps teachers maintain academic integrity.
And it helps students, learn to use these tools in a mindful way.
Right, not just as a default for everything.
I think one of the things that makes me optimistic about all of this is that AI is really forcing us to have these conversations.
I agree.
To really think critically about the purpose of education, what skills are essential, how to prepare students for this future.
Yeah, it's challenging us to move beyond just memorizing facts and figures.
Right.
And focus on those higher order thinking skills.
Creativity, problem solving.
Adaptability.
And to think about things like ethics and data privacy in a whole new way.
Absolutely. These are real-world issues that we need to address head-on.
So, while there are certainly risks and challenges...
Right, it's not all sunshine and roses.
I think there's also a lot of potential for AI to make education more engaging, more effective, and ultimately more equitable for all students.
That's the goal.
And I think that's what makes this document from Georgia so important.
It's a great starting point.
It's a reminder that we have a choice in how we shape this technology.
Right, we don't have to just let it happen to us.
We can use it to create something really positive. Speaking of shaping technology, one of the things that stood out to me in this document was their emphasis on AI attribution.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's not just about avoiding plagiarism. It's really about teaching students to be transparent about when and how they use AI.
Right, because we're moving into a world where the lines between human intelligence and artificial intelligence are getting blurrier all the time.
So if a student uses an AI tool to help write an essay, they need to be upfront about that.
Transparency is key.
To acknowledge the role of AI in that work.
It's about giving credit where credit is due.
It's almost like we're creating a whole new set of rules for the game.
We are. The rules are changing.
And the document even suggests that educators model that behavior in their own work.
That's a great idea.
Lead by example.
Right, show students what responsible AI use looks like.
It's not just about telling them, it's about showing them.
Actions speak louder than words.
And it helps students understand this complex relationship.
Yeah, it's a complex topic.
Between human creativity and artificial intelligence.
It's a conversation that's just beginning, and it's a conversation that we need to be having right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, the theory of all of this.
Yeah.
This document really gets into the nitty-gritty, the implementation. Yeah. For example, talk a lot about vetting AI tools.
Right.
Not just, grabbing whatever the flashiest new app is.
Right. Not all AI is created equal.
Right. What works in one context might be a total disaster in another.
Exactly. And I really like their suggestion of forming some kind of review committee that includes a variety of stakeholders to evaluate these AI tools.
So almost like a quality control team for educational technology.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I like that.
You would have teachers and parents, tech experts, maybe even students themselves, all weighing in on whether a particular tool is right for their school.
Right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because those are the people who are actually going to be using it. So they should have a say in the process.
And that's a great way to ensure that AI is implemented in a way that's really transparent, accountable, and aligned with the values of the community.
And, it's not just about choosing the right tools. This document also talks a lot about the need for ongoing professional development for teachers.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, even the most amazing AI tool in the world is useless.
Right.
If teachers don't know how to use it effectively.
Exactly. You can't just hand them this new technology and expect them to figure it out on their own.
They need support. They need resources. They need training to really, integrate it into their classrooms in a way that makes sense.
And the training shouldn't just be about the technical how-to.
Right.
It also needs to cover the ethical considerations.
Okay.
The potential biases that we've been talking about, the importance of maintaining that human connection.
Right.
All of that needs to be part of the conversation.
It's almost like we're creating a new breed of educator. The AI-savvy teacher. The teacher of the future.
Who can really navigate this new landscape.
Right.
With confidence and with a critical eye.
I think that's really exciting.
It is exciting. And it all comes back to, this core idea that we've been talking about of human-centered AI. Using this technology to augment human capabilities.
Right.
Not to replace them.
We don't want robots teaching our kids.
Right. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, education is about people.
Absolutely.
It's about relationships. It's about connections. It's about growth.
It's about human interaction.
And I think this document really captures that spirit.
It does.
It's not just a set of rules and guidelines. It's really a vision for a future where AI is helping us create a more, equitable and engaging and ultimately more human educational experience.
A more human experience. That's the key.
Yeah, for all students.
And then that's something we can all get behind. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this document, what are your biggest takeaways? What do you hope our listeners will kind of walk away thinking about?
I think the most important takeaway is that AI in education isn't just some futuristic concept.
Right.
It's happening now.
Uh-huh.
And this document gives us a really valuable framework for approaching it thoughtfully and ethically.
Right.
It brings up so many important questions about data privacy, about teacher training, about the role of human judgment, all these questions that every school and every district needs to be thinking about.
Yeah, I think this is a call to action for all of us.
It is.
To really engage in this conversation.
Absolutely.
To ask tough questions. To make sure that AI is used in a way that truly benefits students.
Because the future of learning is at stake.
And that's not something we can afford to ignore.
We can't just sit back and let it happen.
We need to be proactive, we need to be thoughtful, and we need to work together.
To shape this technology in a way that serves humanity.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI in education.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a really thought-provoking conversation, and I hope it's inspired you to learn more and get involved.
And to remember that the future of learning is in our hands.
It is. Let's shape it together.